Recording.
My colleague was, he's been following, my brother has been following.
Good morning, all. Corporate affairs, may we begin? I think it is 10 o'clock on the dot. Can you hear me?
Yes, Chair, we can hear you.
Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, once again, and welcome to the ZCCM Investment Holdings Shareholder Day event. Today, Wednesday, 27th April, 2022. My name is Loisa Mbata, and I'm the Corporate Affairs Manager to manage this event. We are very excited to have all of you join in this meeting. From Zambia, I saw somebody post from the, I'll just have to confirm that somebody joining us from all the way from the Reunions Island in the Indian Ocean. And we do have our shareholders as well, all the way from France, Sweden, London, and Spain, the USA. It's a lovely good morning, good evening, whichever place you are joining us from. I recognize all of you, our shareholders, our stakeholders, and also representation from the Ministry of Finance, our shareholders from the Ministry of Finance, the Industrial Development Corporation, and the National Pension Scheme Authority that are joining us virtually as well. Present in today's meeting, the ZCCM ZCCMH Board of Directors, and joining us is Ms. Dolika Banda, who is our Board Chairperson. And with us in this room, we have directors, Director Mchindu Kasongola from the IDC. We also have Director Gregory Kabwe from the Ministry of Finance, Director Moses Nyerenda from the Ministry of Mines and Minerals Development, and Director Bishop John Mambo, and also Director Philippa Tusak joining us in this meeting room. Representing the ZCCMH management team is from the high table. We have our acting Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Tisa Chama, and seated with him on his left is the Ministry of Mines and Minerals Development Director, Director Nyerenda. And also seated on his left is Mr. Chavala, who is our company secretary. We also do have in the room other senior management staff. Once again, thank you so much for joining us and welcome to this virtual event. In today's event, the agenda obviously is geared towards our shareholders, and I'll just highlight the key items on the agenda. Our ZCCM Board Chairperson will give shortly some opening remarks, which will be followed by a presentation on the ZCCM strategic plan, including some of the strategic portfolio updates. This session will be followed by addressing various questions, some of which we have received from you, our shareholders, and some of those questions you will be posting in the live chat, and we'll be able to get some of those after the presentations. And therefore, we request that as the presentation are done, if you may, just for ease of running this session, we would like to request that shareholders can, in advance, even post some of the questions that you may have. I'd like to also mention that this event has both channels in English and French. So those of you who are joining us from the French-speaking country, France, you are able to select whether to listen to the English channel or the French channel. And those instructions are right there when you join the Zoom, through the Zoom link. At this point, I would like to invite our board chairperson to give her opening remarks. I must also mention that today's presentation may contain forward-looking statements, and so a detailed disclaimer forms part of our presentation later on to be given by the Chief Executive Officer. With that, I will hand over to Ms. Dolika Banda to give the remarks and start the event today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Loisa, and good day to all, given that we seem to be in different time zones. It is a real honor and a pleasure for me to sit here and to be able to address our shareholders and obviously participating globally. I would like, although Loisa has already done the thank yous, I would also like to recognize everybody who is joining us on behalf of our shareholders in Zambia and those of us who are participating virtually. I welcome and I thank you, and in French, I guess, since we do have a lot of French-speaking participants on the call, bonjour à toutes et à tous. First, this is the event that has been held for the first time in 6 years. The last was held in France. It is being held virtually, although the original plan was to have a physical shareholder open day, but unfortunately those plans were disturbed by the COVID-19 pandemic. Nonetheless, the board feels it very important that we interact with the shareholders, given the delays in the holding the AGM and shareholder meeting as was originally planned. So for me, today's event is threefold. First of all, it is for us to share some strategic updates and some direction about where the company is going, and a little bit about where we have come from actually over the last year or two. The second, I think, which is probably the most important, is to forge mutual and beneficial shareholder engagement with our shareholders, with our stakeholders, and the new board directors who have been introduced. And then most importantly, is an opportunity for us to interact with you as our shareholders, and to address a number of significant issues that we have been facing in the last year or so. So we will do that mainly during the presentation that will last probably as short as possible, so that we leave time for you to ask your questions, for us to respond to those that we had already received prior to today. But also I encourage you during the course of the meeting to post in the chat function any additional questions that you may have, and we will try to answer those to the best of our ability. Loisa did not say in the introduction, but it is our intention to post the answers to most of the questions that we will raise today, that you will raise and we will address on our website at some point in the near future. There is also an FAQ on our website, frequently asked questions page. So there you will find publicly known information that you may wish to go to after this meeting. It is in the public domain, and so you should feel free to visit that. So as a new chair, I'm sure there's a lot of curiosity about what do I see. So let me just take a few minutes to share with you what I would like the legacy of this board to be. We're talking legacy and we're just at the beginning. I think we're 4 months in as a newly constituted board, but I always believe it's good to have an end goal. as you work and as you enter a new position. So for me, I think really what we would like to see is to ensure, as a board, a financially and socially sustainable mining-focused investment holding company. What I'm telling you is in our strategy, we are merely reinforcing what we will be focusing in going forward. The second, I think, is for us to really be very strict about corporate governance practices. It's the day-to-day things. It's also in the larger things that we face, but we really want to set up an institution and manage an institution that respects governance practices that are globally acceptable. To this extent, you will see that the 2020 financial statements, which had not been published for 2 years, were actually published now. And that was part of our drive to make sure that we run this organization in accordance with expected global standards. We will be working towards securing predictable and consistent revenue streams. We're looking at alternative revenue initiatives. The dividend model in many cases has not served us well. We don't have the full answers yet, but we are looking at alternative revenue initiatives in order to bolster the revenue streams and the bottom line, which in turn will come to yourself as return on your investments in the form of a dividend. We want to deliver more exploration and commodity diversification benefits within the mining sector. We want to go beyond copper. We want to look at the new technology requirements, so electronic vehicles, robotics, artificial intelligence-driven handheld devices, etc. We want ZCCM to start looking now at what the market is going to be needing in the next 10, 15, 20 years and start managing towards building those commodities. We are already in discussions with neighboring countries about how Zambia can support them with the minerals that will enable them to participate in this new age of technology. We do want to focus on value addition and beneficiation projects on the ground. We want to go upstream in terms of value addition beyond just exporting raw material, but we also want to go downstream in terms of inputs into our production. And so this is a major focus for us. We have already started working on it, but we will be increasing the lens on this particular aspect. And CEO will speak to you more about it as he does his presentation. We really want to present an exemplary ZCCM IH brand. It is not lost on us globally that we are listed not just as a Zambian listed company. We are listed on Euronext. We are quoted on the London Stock Exchange. We want the ZCCM IH brand to be a top-notch brand. And all of this leading to net profit, leading to a return to yourselves as shareholders, leading to a return that is also for our stakeholders. Our stakeholders, including the counties and the provinces and the host communities in which we do our business, our subsidiaries do our business, our affiliates do their business. We want to be a force within those communities as well. So it is a financial return, as I said at the beginning, but it is also a socially impactful return in the communities in which we work. So I will leave it at that because there will be time for Q&A. I just wanted to give you a flavor of what my focus is going to look like. And hopefully through this, we improve the net profit, we improve return to shareholders and stakeholders, we improve our relationships with our existing partners in the mining sector and in the portfolio, and we improve the quality of the portfolio itself in order that ZCCM can return the returns that it was originally set up to do for the country and for its shareholders globally. So with that, I hand it back to you, Loisa, for logistics and on to CEO. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Strategic issues in terms of where the board envisages the company will be the direction that the company will take, where we are and where we're going as a company. And that's very important. At this point, I will hand over to the acting Chief Executive Officer, who will give us the presentation on the ZCCM Strategic Plan 2020 to 2026, and also give a number of strategic updates regarding some of our portfolio companies. Thank you.
Thank you, Program Coordinator, Loisa. Good morning, Chair. Good morning, Directors, and all the shareholders that have joined us here on site and those that have joined us online. My name is Tisa Chama. I'm the acting CEO. I'm the acting
Can we ask everybody on the phone to mute, please? Thank you.
Thank you. I will present the ZCCM strategic plan focusing on the 2020 to 2026, the one that we are pursuing. But in this presentation, I'll cover the strategic plan evolution as the ZCCM vision, mission, and values, the strategic transformative agenda for ZCCM, the pipeline projects that we have, and then we are going to look at an update on some of the strategic areas that we've been considering. So in pursuing our strategic plan, we first had the 2018-2023 strategic plan, which we have been pursuing. And this strategic plan largely focused on extracting shareholder value through diversification into other sectors, apart from the mining industry. Now, 2 years into this strategic plan, we undertook further strategic introspection and looked at how best we can carry on the mission that we have. In 2018 and 2019, as part of the implementation of the strategic plan, we had scored some of the notable achievements, which were part of our 18 goals, which were set out in the initial 2018 to 2023 strategic plan. These included the consistent dividend payouts to shareholders, portfolio return, which was above the set benchmark, increased the shareholding in CEC, the power company, from 20 to 24.1%. We diversified into manganese exploration as well as mining through the Kabunda Resources Limited, which was established. We increased our shareholding in Kariba Minerals from 50% to 100%. We also recapitalized the investment bank, Investrust Bank PLC, through the injection of 286 million kwacha, an equivalent of about $15 million in today's currency. We also we took initiatives towards predictable revenues in the form of royalties. We also implemented the new performance management system. In the 2020 to 2026 strategic plan, with our mandate to ensure that Zambia's finite mineral resource, they are optimized sustainably to the benefit of our key stakeholders in the present and also future generations. Our vision in the new strategic plan is to be a world-class investment holding company with a focus on mining. This entails that it's a global and competitive, robust industrial standards, and also resilient organization structure. The mission to be a transformative company with investment agenda that benefits all the stakeholders, being agile and adaptive to innovation, value addition and beneficiation, and with sustained growth through commodity diversification. And our values are in integrity, teamwork, respect, transparency and accountability, environmental, social, and governance awareness. These interconnecting our profit with a purpose, tying our returns to impact as well as shareholder value. And our theme in our strategic plan is mining smartly, with the acronyms which encapsulates the strategic impetus that we are focusing on mining. And smartly is an acronym that represents the 7 strategic pillars that we are pursuing. The next slide focuses on our snapshot on the portfolios that we have within ZCCM. Now we have 14 direct mining portfolio within our portfolio, which has some of the companies 100% shareholding by ZCCM, and others varying shareholding percentages. We also have a non-mining portfolio, which includes some of the companies we invested in during the 2018 to 23 strategic plan. On those non-mining portfolio companies, you also notice that we have some companies that are key to the operations of the mining industry. In terms of our business model to sustain growth in the face of new and constant disruptions that we experience, and also to sustain growth requires agility and reinvention. So we have the process of project insertion, which identifies and appraises the projects that we are going to invest in, with the sources of capital being from internally generated funds, shares, and loans. We also have new initiatives in the treasury and cash management initiatives, steaming models, royalty model, and metal trading, operating mines through the special purpose vehicles that are formed, and we also participate in supply chain initiatives. On the post-legacy portfolio growth, we have divestments, group rationalization, turnaround strategies for some ailing entities. We also increase shareholdings to exercise control in some of the legacy portfolio. For legacy growth, we have increased dividend income, contract mining, as well as management contracts. We have since put in motion to achieve our new strategic plan. For instance, in the first place, we have since invested in diversifying into other minerals. To extract value, we have got to extract value from the current portfolio. We have been developing new revenue streams from the current portfolio by participating in the mining supply chain. We also diversify a portfolio to reduce risks that and also enhance returns. We have ventured into energy projects, commodity diversification, which includes some of the projects that we'll talk to, the mineral value add addition projects that we are considering pursuing. The next one, we have increased shareholder value through consistent dividend payouts and portfolio optimization. This can be demonstrated in the dividend for 2018 and 2019, when dividends were declared and paid out. And then the other one is to achieve operational and financial excellence through budgetary control, adopting best practices and systems, staff training and development, high performance culture. However, with all these, we still in our portfolio have experienced some key challenges, and would like just to mention some of these and some of the steps that we are taking, as well as proposing to implement. Amongst the challenges that we have is the inability to realize full value from the investee companies in the form of economic and social returns, especially from the mining sector. The inability to influence operations within investee companies due to a minority shareholding, a widely diversified portfolio that we got into across multiple sectors. And to address these, we are looking at alternative revenue streams, such as the royalty model, management fees, and participating in the mining supply chain. Also, we would like to lobby for redesigning of the policies and the legal framework to support the alternative revenue streams. We also intend to increase shareholding to significant minority status in order to have influence in key decision making. Gradually divest out of the non-core and also sectors. The other challenge that we have noted and experience is limited local participation in the mining sector. Our proposed remedies include aggressive policy to seek and acquire new licenses, investment in mineral beneficiation and value addition, increased exploration activity with clearly set out goals, objectives, and timelines. We have also noticed and noted the weak corporate governance practices in some of our investee companies. Audit corporate governance gaps is being proposed, and also to ensure that we have the investee companies align with the ZCCM policy and governance directives and guidance. Moving on to the pipeline projects that we have. As ZCCM, we are repositioning ourselves to advance Zambia's economic interests in the mining sector, being at the forefront, and we are involved in the various streams of mining, from base metal, industrial minerals, gemstones, energy, as well as value add. We have, over the years, our investments have been in copper, but we are also moving into cobalt, zinc, manganese, to get ready for the next phase of the economic and technology revolution that is coming. We have in these base metals, we have companies like Konkola, Mopani, Lubambe, and we have also a project currently under drilling, Libombwe. On the industrial minerals, we have Limestone Resources Limited, and we also have a project looking at how we can enhance and develop the gypsum industry and the cement industry. On gemstone, within our portfolio, we have got an amethyst mine, Kariba Minerals, but through the group rationalization, we are looking at getting the emerald in our stable. On the energy minerals, currently we have a number of licenses, the blocks for exploration, oil exploration in the oil and gas, as well as coal-bed methane. On value addition, we are looking at reestablishing the precious metals plant, and currently we are in the process of completing the feasibility study on that. And we are also looking at adding value to the manganese, which at the moment has been exported out of the country in raw form by establishing a ferroalloy smelter in Serenje, Kabunji. There are opportunities, and ZCC, as Chair alluded to earlier, there are opportunities in the region, and ZCCM is positioning itself in leveraging these regional and global opportunities. ZCCM activities to leverage on these opportunities include high-value minerals such as the cobalt that we have in the deposits in Konkola, in KCM, in Luvambe, and in Mopani. The next one is the reorganization of KCM to optimize on long-term copper and cobalt production and the increased exploration activities around these licenses where we know there are cobalt deposits. The other one is the opportunity to resuscitate the idle Chambish metals, which is currently under care and maintenance. And then also the expansion of the Kabundi operations for increased manganese production. The other areas we're looking at is, as alluded to by Chair, is the collaboration with the DRC and ZCCM intends to play a part on that through the Zambia Development Agency to exploit mutually beneficial investments. And,
CEO, I'm sorry to interrupt you, CEO. We have some joiners who are
within our investee companies that are operating currently off-grid, like the Kasenseli mining operations.
Those on the call, please mute your phones.
The value additional projects, both up and downstream, and then opportunities to reorganize and increase capacity of the regional lime market. Quickly update on some of the key portfolio areas. On Mopani copper mines, ZCCMIH is in the process of engaging an investment banker to help with the restructuring and raising of funds for Mopani for purposes of growth and sustainability. It is expected that this process will take some months, and at this stage we are looking at 6 months to complete this exercise. On the Konkola copper mines PLC, liquidation proceedings stayed, and the parties referred to the arbitration, which is ongoing. The said proceedings are confidential as between the parties. However, on 7th July, a partial final award was delivered by the sole arbitrator. The award was in some parts in favor of Vedata and in some parts in favor of ZCCM. The proceedings are yet to be disposed of, as there are other issues that remain to be heard and determined. The final hearing is scheduled for 9th of January 2023. The other point to note on KCM is that Mr. Milingolungu, the provisional liquidator, resigned as provisional liquidator on 17th of March 2022, and by operation of the law, the official receiver has assumed the role of provisional liquidator. ZCCM has embarked on an SRK, they have engaged SRK consultants to produce a competent persons report, which will be able to ascertain the current state of KCM from the technical and operational perspective. And this will inform the decision to be made about KCM. A quick update on Kansanshi Mining PLC. On 11th of November 2019, Kansanshi Holdings Limited filed a request for arbitration in London against ZCCM as a respondent and KMP as a normal respondent. These arbitration proceedings were strictly confidential as between the parties. On 29th of January 2021, the tribunal made certain decisions in a partial final award and reserved some matters for resolution in the final award. On 12th of January 2022, the tribunal delivered a final award by consent, thereby disposing of the said proceedings. The arbitration has therefore been concluded. The criminal complaint lodged against KMP named directors on the 25th of October 2019 regarding the transfer of the $520 million remains active and investigations are underway. The High Court proceedings commencing in 2016 against FQM and others also remain active. ZCCM appealed to the Supreme Court against the decision of the High Court to dismiss the matter. We await the decision of the Supreme Court on this one. ZCCM and FQM are also in discussions to expand production at Kansanshi mine and also maximize value extraction at the mine. Next, I'll update the shareholders on the Zambia gold operations, and I'll also add briefly the general gold sector on this one. Zambia Gold Limited Kasenseli Gold Mine suspension. Now, ZCCM is currently in discussion with the Ministry of Mines to resolve the issues that led to the suspension of the operations at Kasenseli. Now, Zambia Gold has taken substantial steps at this stage to remedy the breaches. In this regard, Zambia Gold is compliance in most of the regulatory provisions, save for those remedial actions that would depend on other factors outside of the control of Zambia Gold. And some of those will need physical presence on site, which is not possible at this stage. In terms of refinery, in line with the current mandate of developing the gold sector, Zambia Gold is considering working on developing a gold refinery that will refine gold to bullion grade in Zambia. Zambia Gold also executed an offtake agreement with the central bank, the Bank of Zambia. Just to add on the gold sector, also we have some exploration activities as ZCCM and in collaboration with Zambia Gold on one of our license areas in Lufunsa. This is currently under exploration with diamond drilling following the geochemical and geophysical studies conducted last year. I move on to limestone resources. ZCCM envisaged to resolve the poor performance of Ndola Lime company, the company that existed before the new company, Limestone Resources, by first restructuring the balance sheet and then finding a strategic equity partner to run the company profitably. Now, the balance sheet was restructured, and the process of engaging the strategic equity partner is underway and is expected to be concluded soon. A quick update on Lubambe. The mine is currently raising capital to support its operations. The mine recently engaged a consultant to review the operations, and currently the mine is implementing some of the recommendations which were given by the consultant to alter the mining method that has been in use. They have started implementing some of those, and there are some positive indications on some of the areas that they have implemented. The company is now looking also at business transformation with a key focus on contractor mining and business reviews and also improvements. Moving on to Kabundi Resources Limited. Exploration works have continued, and we are in the process of owner mining as the previous model that we had. With the commencement of the operation there, we were not the operators, but currently we are pursuing owner mining, and at the moment it's being done at small scale. But as soon as we acquire equipment for the operations, then we'll be expanding. Also, we are exploring additional value additional opportunities for the manganese operations in Kabundi. Moving on to Kariba Minerals, a turnaround plan is being implemented, which is focused on value addition, trading in amethyst and the other gemstones. And then also market expansion, which has in the past focused on India and China, but we're looking at spreading and expanding to other markets. The AGM roadmap, to update the shareholders, the AGM to table the 2020 and 2021 financial statements is invested to be held in June 2022. On the asset swap between IDC and ZCCM, conclusion of the transaction is aimed at leveraging managerial expertise of both ZCCM and IDC, and all key regulators have permitted the transaction to proceed. A vote by the shareholders originally was scheduled for 30th of June 2021, but was postponed due to housekeeping issues raised by NAPSA. And this has since been resolved following a tribunal ruling in favor of NAPSA against the Lusaka Securities Exchange. The SEC and LUSE have been consulted, and plans by the parties to retable the transaction before the members, and have been guided that what is required is to update the information that was prepared in June 2021 meeting to enable members to have the current information on the state of the investee companies that will be subject to the transaction. The EGM for members to vote on this transaction is expected in mid-May. I thank you, and I'll hand over back to our program coordinator.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chama, our Acting Chief Executive Officer, unpacking what is contained in the ZCCM strategic plan for the period 2020 to 2026. I'd like to mention that the presentation will be made available on the website. And as we go into the next session, I'll kindly request that Everyone who's on the platform, please mute your microphones and your videos. And we'll be going in the question and answer session. And what we will do is that we will start with the questions that were sent to us earlier by the various shareholders, and there are quite a number of them. And again, these same questions and answers will be emailed to you, the shareholders, and also posted on the website for access. At this point, I'll call upon still the Acting Chief Executive Officer to address the various questions that were sent earlier by the shareholders. If you have any other questions or query, please feel free to, as we address the questions from the list that was sent earlier, please feel free to post in the live chat function, and we'll be able to pick up those questions and answers will be provided accordingly. At this point, I invite Mr. Tisa Chama again to give us the responses, the list of the questions and the responses to the same. Thank you.
Thank you. What I will do is I will read the question as it was presented to us, and then I'll provide the answer. The first question is ZCCM shareholders on the Euronext access were taxed twice on last dividend issued. Why is this? And when will this issue be rectified? However, we understand SGSS may not have communicated to paying agents that tax was already withheld. ZCCM inquired into why this was done, but was not received. We have not received any response. Recently, there has been a change of personnel dealing in the ZCCM, dealing with ZCCM at SGSS. ZCCM will provide feedback once SGSS answers the query. The next question that came through is ZCCM financial statements for the year ended 2021 were to be published by the end of Q1 2022, as announced by the board director. Why has this not happened yet? The answer to this question is, this is due to delayed publication of financial statements by some of our investee companies and delayed restructuring of investment, of Invest Trust and Mushe Milling. The next question is, when will the ZCCM financial statements for the year ended 2021 be published? This is envisaged to be issued by 31st of May, 2022. I move on to the next question. What is being done to mitigate these delays in the future? Going forward, ZCCM, the following initiatives will be implemented, among others. First one is introduction of effective 2022 financial year. The next is to engage the engagement of ZCCM group auditors by investee companies to conduct specific audits to group reporting for group reporting purposes. And next is ZCCM penalties and interest incurred from the regulators will be subsequently recovered from these investee companies. The other area is to engage LUCE and SEC to extend the financial reporting period. The reporting timelines to 4 months, and the implementation of Invest Trust Bank PLC and Mushe exit strategy via ZCCM and IDC restructuring. And the last one there is to engage investee companies to improve on financial reporting timelines. I'll move on to the next question. The question is on status update on Lubambe copper mines.
Maybe just to mention, as the CEO is going through the question and answer, the directors, please feel free, and the chair, to make any additions, if so you may wish. Thank you.
Thank you. Maybe before I proceed with the other questions, if any of the directors want to add anything.
I would just, if I may, CEO,
So,
just to
I'll proceed with the next question.
I think the chair would like some additions.
Thank you very much, CEO. I just wanted to
Chair,
mention.
you are muted.
No, that's fine. Proceed. No problem. Go ahead.
Lubambe, the answer is that Lubambe is yet to make any payments on the outstanding loans and is currently working on a long-term financing plan to resolve the historical financing deficits. The next question is on Chambish Metals, a PLC loan of $2.5 million and 1.2 million payable with interest. ZCCM loan payable to Chambish Metals is to be serviced by dividend payments when due from Chambish Metals. It is unlikely that Chambish Metals will have sufficient distributable profits from which to pay dividends for the foreseeable future, as the company is currently under care and maintenance. Therefore, the total amount of 3.7 million made up of a principal of $2.5 million plus interest of $1.2 million has not been recognized in the financial statements and is disclosed as a contingent liability. I'll move on to the next question. The question is, did you find any skeleton in the cupboard after the sale by Glencore? I think this is referring to Mopani. The comment and answer to that is that the review of Mopani has continued post-acquisition. If any significant anomalies are found, these will be communicated accordingly at the time. The next question is, what is the total amount of terminal benefits paid to Mopani Copper Mines PLC miners? The miners were paid $47 million in terminal benefits. Moving on to the next one, still under Mopani. Is Mopani able to generate free cash flows now? The company is currently not generating free cash flows owing to the fact that the company requires capital investments in order to increase productivity. There are projects that need to be completed for us to improve productivity at Mopani. The next one is also again on Mopani. Mopani Copper Mines PLC requires funding to increase production, and the government of the Republic of Zambia through the Zambia Revenue Authority owes Mopani Copper Mines over $110 million in VAT refunds. What is ZCCM doing to recover these funds? Is deducting mineral tax on the refundable VAT amount being pursued? The answer to that is that ZCCM, is that Chair? No. Okay. The answer to that is that ZCCM and Mopani Copper Mines continue to engage with the Zambia Revenue Authority to arrive at an amicable position. All possible options are being considered at this stage. I move on to the next question. This is on Mamba. Mamba Collieries Limited have won an arbitration against ZESCO for $250 million, with half of the payments to be paid soon, while the other half is expected later. Have the funds been received? The answer to that is funds have not been received yet. ZESCO has been challenging the enforceability of the judgment on account of the issue in jurisdiction. The matter is being handled by Mamba legal team. The next question is on Kaboni Resources Limited, mining activities. Has Kaboni Resources mining activities increased significantly since its inception? Have interim targets been made? If not, why is this? Production, the answer is that production has not increased significantly as Kaboni Resources Minerals just recently commenced its own mining activities in the areas, as opposed to the previous model where the other partner was the miner. And we have some new areas that we have moved into where we expect to expand the operations. However, to expand, we first need to complete the acquisition of equipment in those areas. And in the meantime, exploration has continued. And Kaboni Resources Limited was only earning a royalty in the previous model that we are using. So the next question is, has a thorough audit been undertaken? Has a thorough audit been undertaken, or are there any plans underway for an audit following Mr. Miringolungu's departure to ensure no irregularities at KCM PLC? ZCCM lodged a complaint on what they felt as being mismanagement on the part of Mr. Lungu. We understand investigations are underway. The next question is, the smelter refining and mining operations at Konkola Copper Mines PLC still operational? The answer to that is both the smelter and some mining activities are still operational. As you may know that KCM is this vast operation, highly integrated. So some of the areas, they are operational. However, the performance at the moment is below expectation because some areas need capital injection. I'll move on to the next question. Has ZCCM IH guarantee of the $100 million transaction with Trafigura being cancelled? The guarantee is still in place, and ZCCM IH is in discussions with Trafigura to find a replacement for the collateral that was pledged on behalf of KCM. I move on to the next question. Are negotiations underway to convince the data to return to Zambia? At this stage, ZCCM were unable to comment on this matter as it is subject to the ongoing legal cases. The next question is, are there any mining companies interested in taking over Konkola Copper Mines PLC? And if so, will ZCCM retain a stake? The answer to that is due to the ongoing court action, ZCCM is constrained to comment on this matter. As regards retaining a stake, ZCCM has intentions of retaining its equity stake in KCM regardless of who the investor is. The next question is on Kansanshi, the dividend payments from Kansanshi. If Kansanshi Mining PLC can afford to fund the S3 expansion, why is it still in the business of giving ridiculous dividends to ZCCM, especially considering the current copper price? Now, Kansanshi Holdings Limited are the controlling shareholder in Kansanshi Mining PLC. And as ZCCM was a minority shareholder, it has got limited influence as to how the Kansanshi business is managed. However, ZCCM continues to engage its partners on opportunities to extract more value from Kansanshi. I'll move on to the next question. Is there a plan to disinvest in non-strategic assets? Yes, the group restructuring transaction is the starting point for this diversification. Therefore, a deliberate strategy to divest out of non-core assets will be implemented at the right time. The next question is, why are you selling assets why are you not selling assets that earn nothing and cost money? So the turnaround strategy has been developed for these entities and are being implemented to address the issues that have led to them performing badly. ZCCM is also in the process of divesting from others like Nkana Alloy. The next question is, despite high copper prices, some of our investee companies are struggling to make a profit. What arrangements are being made to ensure that that does not continue? ZCCM has been engaging all of its partners to ensure solutions are found across the struggling assets. The next question is a number of Euronext Access-based shareholders want to be sought out, to be bought out. Is this something ZCCM could consider if the government of the Republic of Zambia retains directly or indirectly the majority shareholding? At the moment, there are no indications for such a corporate action. Shareholders will be informed should the matter be considered in the future. These are the answers to some of the questions that we received. And as indicated earlier, all these answers, together with the ones that we receive, will be posted with answers to you through our website you'll be able to access the answers that have been given. Program coordinator, do we have any other questions?
Thank you very much, Acting CEO. Yes, we do have some questions. As he has mentioned, we will be able to post the list of the questions, the other questions, to be accessed on the website. And this recording will also be made available on the website. I will go through some of the questions that have already come through. We have a question from Philip Christen, who's asking, dear Chairman, Chairperson, I suppose, what is the interest for ZCCM to keep shares? That's 7.5% on the Euronext, where the exchanges are very low and where the price of the shares is devaluing for the image of our company, ZCCM. I will go through some of the questions. So the other question as well is, dear Chairperson, kindly elaborate from Mubangan Sama. We're saying kindly elaborate on how ZCCM intends to, I beg your pardon, how ZCCM intends to improve the liquidity of the ZCCM shares as per the 2020 to 2026 plan. The other question is, what is ZCCM's strategic plans for all the gold dotted around the country, for example, Central Province and Northwestern? From Selekania, Nicholas Cavasso writes, what was the initial investment motivation for Invest Trust Bank? And how has, may we please mute? And how has this equity performed post the investment date? And what sort of investment exit strategy is ZCCM looking to get into with IDC over the same equity injection? The last question is, what is ZCCM's position on petroleum exploration for the currently held blocks? Will we see any steps taken towards this? I will request the board and management, and to start with the first question, Chairperson, on us, ZCCM elaborating on the specifically to do with the shareholding on the Euronext.
Thank you. Can you hear me now? Hello?
So the question is, what is the interest of ZCCM to keep 7.5% on Euronext, where the exchanges are very low and where the price of shares is devaluing for the image of our company, ZCCM?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. So let me just start. And I think there was a question about the liquidity of the stocks in general. I'll tackle these together. I'm a strong believer in capital markets, and my fellow board member will share, because they introduce transparency and they introduce the ability to be able to deal with questions such as the ones that are being raised here today for a company. So for me, for ZCCM High H, we are already looking at how we can improve the liquidity, not just on Euronext, but also on the Zambian market. Now, these are things that we are discussing. They are part of a strategy. I honestly would not go into detail. I cannot, because we haven't fully delved into it at the board level. Remember, this is a fairly new board composed about 4 months ago. But definitely liquidity of the stock is something that is on my mind. and I have already shared with our shareholders that this is something we've got to tackle. I don't believe at this point that delisting on Euronext is the answer. I actually think moving up a level from entry point would be more of an answer. We are looking at what we can do with the London Stock Exchange. We are also looking at what we can do on the Lusaka Stock Exchange. In order for us to do all of that, we need to clean up this portfolio. Right now, ZCCM, as you see from our vision, is supposed to be a mining operation, a mining holding company, so mining and mining related. You saw on the chart that showed our portfolio that we have about 7 or so non-mining related assets. And as CEO has said, we are trying to rationalize out of those, different conversations going on. And only when we have a portfolio that is very clearly mining and mining related, I feel we can then tackle the issues of where we are listed, at what level we are listed, and how do we provide liquidity in that listing. It is one of my 2022 10-point plans is to look at the whole of our activity on the capital markets. There are a lot of advantages on being on capital markets. I know for the shareholders, you may feel, well, we're not trading very much. We don't have a liquidity event out of this. These are all issues that we are going to be looking at as we look at the portfolio construct of ZCCM and as we look at the different areas that we need to enter into in our portfolio, and as we look at how do we elevate the image globally of ZCCM. I think these are all tied. And that global image, I think, is very important for us to be on an exchange or exchanges other than just Lusaka Securities Exchange. So for now, as CEO has said, we are looking at all these things, but it is something that we would like to hold on to. Do we want, you want to move on to the next question?
Yes, Chair, we may move to the next question. And the question on Invest Trust.
La question sur Invest Trust.
Look, on Invest Trust, the part where we speak about what was the underlying rationale, I would like to suggest that that is not going to serve us well in the context of where we are today. I would like to focus on the fact that we are now trying to find a solution. We are in discussion with our shareholder to see how we can rationalize this. As CEO has mentioned, and as you've mentioned in the strategy, and as I have just said, this is a non-core asset. It doesn't belong in the portfolio of a mining and mining focused company as we have articulated in our vision. So we are in the process of sorting out Invest Trust and looking also at some of the other non-core assets off of our balance sheet. I don't know if board members or management you would wish to add any more, but I believe the important thing is that we are in high conversations with our shareholder to streamline our balance sheet. And this is one of the conversations.
Management, I'd like to invite the Chief Investment Officer maybe to speak to the aspect of what we are doing with regards to harnessing the opportunities in the gold sector.
Thank you very much, Program Moderator, and thank you very much, Member, for the question as regards what we are trying to do as ZCCM in developing the gold sector. First and foremost, just to remind all the members that ZCCM, through its subsidiary, Zambia Gold, has been given the mandate in which to develop the gold sector. In the presentation that was made by the acting CEO, he made mention that we are doing operations in Kasenseri, However, it's common knowledge that the operations were suspended, and together ZCCM as well as the Zambia GOD have made significant progress in terms of implementing some of the recommendations that were made by the Ministry of Mines. Further, again, in the presentation, the acting CEO made mention that we've come up with exploration program, which we are doing in Rufunsa, an area where we have a license. We're also trying to speak to a number of other license holders within the area and see how we can partner together. Also, there are a number of other areas that we've identified where there are prospects for gold, and we're trying to partner with this. Some of the areas where we are targeting, and we've been in discussions with some of the license holders, includes in Luano, where there is a high prospect for gold. We've made significant progress in terms of agreeing the roadmap, as well as coming up with the preliminary agreements. Very soon, we should be starting the exploration program, which is supposed to be done jointly. Another area where we've identified the partners to work with closely, it's in Muchinga province, to be specific, in Impika. There is a license order there that we've been having discussions with. Further, we've also been having discussions with another license order in Mumbwa. It's another area I think we've been seeing in the press that there's a gold rush that is happening there. So we identified that opportunity, and we're working closely with those. Gold sector is something that is currently being developed in Zambia, and it is being done currently in an informal sector. As ZCCM, based on the interaction that we've been having with other countries where they've significantly developed this sector, we identified that the informal miners, artisanal miners, were supposed to work closely with them. As such, we've started working with various cooperatives across the country and looking at empowering them so that they'll be able to be doing the mining. Of course, of concern is that as ZCCM, when looking at the vision and where we want to be, we want to ensure that we maintain certain standards. So what we're trying to do is to work with these cooperatives, come up with the safety measures that are supposed to be adhered to, as well as ensure that when this gold is being mined, ultimately, as acting CEO mentioned, we've entered into an offtake agreement with the central bank, and there's emphasis that whenever these gold activities are being done, gold is being mined in a responsible manner. So I want to ensure that there's no labor for children that are being used. There is the ESG compliance levels and all these things that are supposed to ensure that will also be accredited to the highest, best possible standards. So those are some of the activities that we're doing. And further, just to make mention that we're also looking at value addition within the gold sector, and not just producing up to bullion, but to go over and above that.
If I may add, CIO, that we are also working very closely with the Minister of Mines from a framework perspective in terms of how Zambia plans to manage its gold as an asset class.
Thank you very much, Chair. The other questions on the platform with regards to, I'll go through some of the questions, additional questions from Sylvan Blomer, who is saying that you have raised that you see the share price not reflecting the value of the company and is undervalued. Why are you not implementing a share buyback program like most of the miners? The second question from Steve Sullivan is Gemfields is launching a gemstone sale online platform. Why not Caribou Minerals is not participating? I will ask, maybe we respond to that. I think this was, we asked maybe to respond to the first question in terms of why not buying back a share buyback program. Chair.
Is that for me? Okay. I would really like CEO to jump into this as well. I think it's important that we are on the same level in terms of where we are with ZCCM at the moment. And the more I listen to these questions, the happier I am that actually we decided to hold this conversation at the time that we have, because it will also help to inform us as a board that is looking to implement what was put in the strategy in aggressive mode, because we are already 2 years into the strategy. So now is the point where we really need to accelerate the implementation. So why not a share buyback? I think when you're ready to do a share buyback, you have to do the financial analysis, first of all, that this is worth doing it at this particular point in time. And we are not yet at that stage. We are obviously, it's conversations that have been had at the board level, including for the French shareholders or the Euronext shareholders, but it has not come to the point where we are saying this is a corporate action that we need to take at the present moment. We will put it on the table. We are going to have a discussion around strategy at every quarterly meeting. This is something that we've just instituted as of, I think, last week, when I was having a conversation with CEO. And these are things that we will put into the context of how do we rearrange the balance sheet. Again, it comes back to looking at the balance sheet, rearranging the balance sheet, looking at our bottom line, accelerating receipt of dividends from our underlying investee companies, and then looking at financially, what does this envelope look like at a portfolio level? I think we have really not been, from what I can tell, been looking at the portfolio as a whole. And now we're going to be looking at the portfolio level as a whole, and that will inform what corporate actions we take to increase liquidity, to buy back if that's what we decide to do, to exit certain assets, which we will do. So we're not looking at it individually, we are looking at it as a full ZCCM assessment. So it's not to say it won't happen. It may happen. I just can't say at the moment that the probability of it happening, nor the timing that it might happen. That I'm not in a position to say.
Thank you.
But it's not something that is off the table in terms of corporate action.
Thank you very much, Chair. At this point, I'll invite the Acting Chief Executive Officer. And may I mention that the directors, please feel free to contribute to the questions that have been asked, including management. I'll be calling upon some of you, but at this point, I'll ask the Acting Chief Executive Officer to respond to the question on the petroleum exploration. What is ZCCM's position on petroleum exploration for the currently held blocks? Will we see any steps taken towards this?
Thank you. On the petroleum exploration, currently ZCCM holds some blocks in the country. We have got 4 licenses, blocks which we have been having discussions and negotiations with potential partners who have got interest in petroleum as well as coal bed methane for them to come through, and then we can work together with them. Some of these we have some advanced progressed discussions with them. Others haven't moved that much because of certain regulatory requirements that are needed before we can even make any decisions on those. So yes, ZCCM is involved. Nothing much has happened so far, but we still have 4 blocks that are under ZCCM. Thank you.
And maybe CEO, you'd like also, or the Chief Investment, to respond to the second question from Sylvan, where he's asking the launch of the online gemstone platform by Gemfields, and if at all Kariba Minerals will be able to join that platform.
Maybe I'll ask CIO to comment on that.
Thank you, CEO, and thank you, Program Moderator. Again, as submitted by the acting CEO during the presentation, he made mention that at the moment, Kariba Minerals is working on implementing the turnaround plan, which speaks to a number of key issues. Amongst them, it's the initiation of trading in the amethyst as well as the other gemstones. Also, just to make mention that as we look at improving on the performance of Kariba Minerals, we've acquired a shop at the new international airport in Lusaka, where we'll be selling this. Also, there are a number of other players that we've been discussing with. There's a company that has been producing in terms of value addition. And also, just to make mention that a presentation by acting CEO, he made mention that we'll be looking at the asset swap. So the asset swap includes us giving out some of the non-core value assets in exchange for the interest that we have in gemstone. So that sits very well strategically, but this will be announced to the members as well as to the market the moment this is fully implemented.
Thank you very much. We have another question from M. Barry, who is saying that on 12th January 2022, the tribunal issued the final award by consent that's written in annual accounts of FQM. What is the matter of these decisions? All ZCCM shareholders have to be informed. Thanks for your clear answer. So I think at this point, the legal counsel, if you may comment on that. The question is, the tribunal issued the final award by consent that's written in annual accounts of FQM. What is the matter of this decision? Ms. Yadika Mkandawire, our Chief Legal Counsel.
Thank you. The arbitration proceedings, as you are aware, were confidential between the parties. And under the circumstances, we are constrained as to how much information can be disclosed. We do understand that the shareholders are entitled to receiving information. I think what is important and what has been made available in the market announcement is that the award by consent was in some respects in favor of ZCCM, and in some respects, the outcome of these arbitration proceedings were in favor of ZCCM. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I hope the those on the Zoom. Please let's make sure our mics are muted. Administrator, please ensure that that is controlled. The next question we have is from Stuart Lesulo, who is saying that, dear Chair, why is it that Mopani Copper Mines and Konkola Copper Mines are both struggling to pay for power to the Copper Belt Energy Corporation, PLC? I would like to invite Mr. Brian Musonda, CIO, to respond to that question. Why Mopani and KCM are struggling to pay power to CEC?
Thank you again, Program Director. So in terms of the operations of KCM, again, just to make mention that it's public information that the operations of KCM is under the control of the provision liquidator. So we don't have a grip in terms of what is happening on the ground. and the officer is only answerable to the courts. So we are constrained to make any comments in terms of what is really causing those significant challenges. Coming to Mopani, just to make mention again that Mopani and CEC, there were pure commercial relationship where a service is being provided to Mopani, and in turn Mopani is supposed to make payments. Yes, there's a possibility that there could have been some lags in terms of payments being made, but just to confirm to the members that Mopani and CEC, they continue enjoying a cordial relationship, and they've constantly been engaging each other to see how best they can improve any potential business relationships that are there.
Thank you. The next question is there was a plan, and this is from Jan Strat, who is saying there was a plan to invest in the cement industry. What is the status? And the other question, which I also direct to the Chief Investment Officer, is that today in Q1 2022, FQM accounts appeared under huge like Kansanshi after the new tax rules were introduced on January 1st, 2022. With all the cash in the coffers of Kansanshi can be funded very widely and also allow generous dividends. Have you taken steps in this direction with FQM after this tax relief? So your comment on where we are with regards to the cement, investing in the cement industry and the distributable cash by Kansanshi in terms of dividends.
Thank you very much again, Program Director. Thank you, member, for the question that has been asked regarding the status update in terms of where we are with the cement project. Just to make mention that there are a number of parties that were involved in the project, ZCCM, as well as a cooperating partner out of China, in terms of responsibilities that were given to ZCCM, to make mention that we dealt with all our responsibilities effectively. We engaged the ZDA in terms of getting the investment protection program, as well as the necessary tax incentives. Also, the necessary support that was required from government. We engaged our majority shareholder who gave the necessary support. However, the counterpart from China, they're the ones that are supposed to raise the funding. So the reason why the project has stalled is due to the fact that we did not reach a financial closure up until now. Also, just for purposes of disclosure, to make mention that ZCCM in the year 2021 commissioned a review to just ensure that we update the business case for cement project. So the business case that was done by an independent and external consultant still indicates that the project is commercially viable. Again, as mentioned by the acting CEO in the presentation, we'll be looking at the ways and means in which this can be implemented, if it means resetting the relationship, or also what could be the other opportunities that we can consider. So the members will be updated as and when we make progress. There's a question around the tax rules that were pronounced effective 1st January 2022. So this tax requirement now stipulates that for purposes of determination of taxable profit, now Zambia Revenue Authority allows the mineral road tax to be deducted. What that does is that it increases the free cash flow for any company that is in the mining sector. So for us at ZCCM, of course, the expectations are that we're going to get more dividend from all the mines where we have interest, not only Kansanshi, because this is something that the entire sector is benefiting from. Again, in the presentation that was made by the acting CEO, also to re-echo the emphasis from the board chair, just to make mention that we are engaging all the partners, not only Kansanshi, but all the companies where we have interest, to ensure that all these benefits that the companies are getting can also flow to ZCCM by ensuring that we get increased dividend. Also, just to take the opportunity, Madam Director, that I'm still on the floor. I saw another question, which is speaking to what is ZCCM's share in retained earnings in Tanzania as at 31st December 2021. Just to confirm that ZCCM's portion of the retained earnings as at 31st December 2021 stands at $831 million.
Thank you very much. If there, please let me know, directors and the chair and the CEO, if there are any interventions that you'd like to make. The other question from Mr. Stuart Lucilo is that related to Mopani. Should stakeholders be preparing to see another KCM situation from Mopani with respect to the growing power debt? And it doesn't look good on ZCCM that both the big mining companies, KCM and MCM, under its supervision are not doing well operationally. I want to understand where the problem is, especially given the fact that the copper prices on the international market are extremely high, hovering above $9,000 per ton. I'll invite Mr. Musonda once again.
Thank you very much, Director of Programs. And again, thank you very much, member, for getting that clarification. In terms of reaction, again, I repeat, specifically to do with KCM, that we are constrained in terms of being able to respond, as we are not providing strategic drive, as this is under the umbrella of the provision liquidator. For Mopani copper mine, again, first just to give a bit of background, again, in terms of where we're coming from. When we acquired Mopani, it is something that sits very well within our strategic plan in terms of getting controlling interest, also as presented by our acting chief executive officer. From the time that we acquired Mopani, our focus has been on stabilizing the operations of the company. We've now come to understand it better in terms of the challenges that it has been facing. And in terms of implementation of the long-term plan, again, in the presentation that was made by the acting chief executive officer, he made mention that we initiated the process of engaging an investment banker who's supposed to look at reviewing the current operations of Mopani, review the business model of Mopani, also focus on restructuring the operations of Mopani, as well as raising capital for sustainability purposes. The future of Mopani also somehow depend on the finalization of the expansion project. We're quite confident that once the expansion projects are funded, there's going to be significant growth. And our expectations, according to the strategic plan that has been done and approved by the board of Mopani, is that by the year 2025, will be more than double when we compare with the current production. So in terms of the long-term plan, we are quite clear on Mopani and quite confident that we should be able to turn it around the moment we just bring in the necessary capital requirements to turn around the company.
May I just add something, if I may, Eloisa, to this discussion on Mopani and the debt situation? It is public knowledge that a number of our mining companies, some in the ZCCM portfolio, some not, have had very heavy debt burdens. They have been problems, we know, but we are so focused on sorting out these mines. I think you will hear the conversation, the noise coming louder, that we are very focused on sorting out the issues that these companies have been burdened with. They have been burdened. It has not been easy. And so we are looking for all of them. We are looking, do we have the right partners? Where we say, yes, we do, what are they going to bring back in equity form to bolster the mining sector, to update the technology, to build relationships of trust? Quite a lot of trust has been broken between the holding company and some of its underlying investments For reasons best known on both sides, good reasons on both sides, one of our biggest agendas now is to rebuild trust, rebuild relationships with our mining partners so that we are long-term partners as opposed to transaction-focused people. The good news is that they are all at the table, ready to talk, ready to find the way forward. And I think under this board and the management team, you can see the knowledge that they have, the depth of responses. Even though it may look like we're not answering you fully, we should also not forget we are a listed company. Some of the information is not in the public domain, but believe me, we are working very hard as a board to get the underlying companies to start operating as they should be operating. It is painful for us, as somebody has said in the chat, to see copper prices where they are, and yet the productivity of our mines are not at their optimal. So we are working very, very hard to ride this chain over the next few years, whenever it is, but there is cleaning up to be done. And we are very focused on doing that, cleaning it up, including building relationships not only with the mining partners, but also between ourselves, ZCCM, and the management teams of the underlying investee companies, so that data and information is shared in a timely manner. So just to give comfort is probably not giving comfort, but just to alert you and let you know that this board is very keenly aware of what is happening in all of the key mines, and we are working very hard where we can to look for equity, to look for debt, to look for new technologies to be put into these mines, so that indeed we can benefit from the current wave in these prices. Loisa, before you go on, there was a question about Gemfields having gone onto a platform. We didn't answer that question. I think maybe CIO, you might have to take that.
Yes, Chair. I think he had attempted to address that within the spirit of the group rationalization, but I think I'll ask him to reiterate the response. But also, as he responds to that, I'd like him to address the question. I think let me just allow him, and then I'll invite the Chief Financial Officer, Ms. Chilanda Sakala, to address the question on when could we expect the 2021 financial statements planned for, that was planned for 31st March 2022. Did the company intend to pay dividends this year? I'll invite first Mr. Branson to respond, to reiterate the response regarding Gemfields online gemstone trading.
Thank you again, Director of Programs. So as I earlier submitted, I think we also try to take advantage of the fact that there is an asset swap program that we are trying to consider and finalize. And what that will entail is that we are going to get the interest that that IDC currently has in Kajang, and that will make us have direct access to Gemfield, and we'll be able to partner together, work together. In the background, there are a number of interactions that we've been having. As we mentioned, the Kariba Minerals is trying to implement its turnaround plan so that it can start making profits, and also to extend also some of the other sales. Also, just to make mention that for Kariba Minerals, that's focused so much on the amethyst, but we've seen that there are a number of other small-scale miners that are mining gemstones, but they're not able to sell. However, because the Kariba Minerals is associated to ZCCM, there's a lot of confidence in terms of the takers out there in the market. So it will not just be about the amethyst, but as well as the emeralds that Kariba will be buying for onward selling. So we'll ride on that and work as a group with the Gemfield and use the same platform. So there are a number of discussion engagements that we've been having in the background. So in future, that is a very high possibility.
The Chief Financial Officer on the question regarding the financial statements for 2021.
Thank you, Program Coordinator, and thank you, members, for the question. So the question is when could we expect the 2021 financial statement plan for the 31st of March 2022? Did the company intend to pay dividend this financial year? So in terms, we do acknowledge that the financial statements for 2021 are delayed. And the reason for the delay was earlier alluded to by the acting Chief Executive Officer. And just to make mention that the delay mostly was as a result of some of the significant investee companies that feeds into the ZCCM consolidated financial statements and whose financial statements have not been approved to date. And that has resulted in a significant delay of the consolidated financial statements. And coming to the question of whether we anticipate to pay a dividend, the members will be advised in due course once the financial statements are concluded as to whether a dividend will be paid or not. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, the Chief Financial Officer. The next question from Nathan Kazembe says that Chairperson and Chief Investment Officer, your Kabundi model is working. Job well done. If you can invest in 7 open pit copper mines, it will do wonders in parallel to the KCM and MCM situation. Do a cost benefit analysis to see how much is needed. Invite offers to small scale miners who are currently mining, who need equity investors. Do your due diligence, buy in and expand the operations. It's a comment from Nathan Kazembe. And the Chief Investment Officer, would you like to make a comment on that? The Chairperson?
That's fine. Nathan, thank you. And you know, part of our strategy, I know we keep talking forward looking, but unnecessarily, this is just where we are at the moment. But part of our strategy is exactly to support the mining sector as a whole, in order that the mining sector of Zambia can be a very well-regulated industry that benefits its populations. And to that extent, I said earlier, I will say it again, we have literally daily conversation with Minister of Mines about what they are thinking, what they are doing, how ZCCM can partner and work to bring order, but also to take advantage of the opportunities that you just highlighted here. So thank you for that comment. I have to collect that dividend from all those companies first so that we can now start to put some real money into exploration. But definitely exploration and supporting artisanal miners, bringing them into the fold, as was discussed on the gold framework by CIO, we are looking at how to rationalize and approach all of these sectors. So I accept your submission, and we will have it as part of our strategic conversations. I just wanted to also, while I have the floor, to mention on the financial statements. Yes, we are late, but we are 2 months late as opposed to 2 years late. And all of this work and heavy lifting has been done in the last 4 months when the board said we have to publish these accounts. We cannot be a listed company that fails to publish its accounts on time. And that is the way that we're going to go forward, at least as long as this board is responsible. We will publish our financial statements on time. But again, I want to emphasize that we are 2 months late as opposed to 2 years, but in future, that will not be the case. CEO mentioned all the initiatives that we're doing to make sure that that is not the case. So I hope that that does show our shareholders and stakeholders that we are moving towards that clean corporate governance global standard mode of operations. There was earlier, if I may take the floor again, a question around ESG and that ZCCM should be very active in this area. It is definitely on our list. It is actually within the, maybe we missed it within the strategy presentation, but definitely upgrading, staying close to the ESGs is core to us. It's by nature, it's an industry where you are vulnerable to some of these things, but it is definitely on our list of important things and part of our mandate and our mission. Back to you, Loisa.
Thank you very much, Chair. We do have one more question, and we'll be asking that question just to encourage the shareholders to continue bringing in those questions before we bring the event to a close. So if you have any more questions, we will be happy to receive those questions, and the board and management of ZCCM is here to respond to your questions. And we're very happy to have this engagement with you. As we're waiting for another question, we do have Thierry Charles, who would like to ask a question, and maybe I'd like to ask the administrator to just unmute Mr. Thierry Charles. Administrator, please unmute Mr. Thierry Charles for him to ask the question.
Hello, everyone. First of all, we thank very much our chair, the management and the board for initiating their shareholders open day. This constructive exchange is more satisfying than getting information about the company's developments through the press or rumors. Yesterday, President Hichilema indicated that decision regarding Mopani would be annunciated very soon. According to this presentation, it will take at least 6 months. Does the board have really a say, or is everything decided by the president or the finance minister? Same question concerning Concola Copper Mines. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Thierry Charles. I'd like to invite the board chair once again to the floor.
Thank you very much. Mr. Charles, thank you for that question. It's good to meet you. I've met you in many other fora, so it's good to meet you on this platform. And thank you for that question. Look, what my answer to your question, bluntly put, is we are aware. You heard me earlier mention that on Mopani, we're looking for constructive conversations, not just on Mopani, but on others as well. We are looking to improve their balance sheets. In some cases, they will need equity. In some cases, they will need debt. In some cases, they will need a hybrid. It just depends. But we are actively looking at different options. So the president did not speak purely out of his own office. He knows exactly what we're doing as ZCCM. He knows exactly the conversations we are having with the underlying companies. We report to him. It is also common knowledge that there is an ad hoc advisory committee on mining, and that committee includes ZCCM, but also includes Ministry of Finance and all the others. It's a daily conversation. And we are trying all angles to try and find solutions. So the president did not speak out of turn. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I will invite Director Bishop Mambo, who would like to make a contribution.
Yeah, I think it's for the assurance to our shareholders that just like the chair said, nothing is made out of just the president alone. It's not business as usual. I think the new Dawn government has made it very clear that they let the Minister of Mines, let ZCCM, run the mines, and where the issues, of course, the IDC is informed, but it won't be things that is just decided by State House or the head of state alone. The chair is right that we are all involved. Our shareholders, the majority, that's IDC, the Minister of Finance, including them. All we are saying is that past is dead and buried, because these mines are meant to benefit all of us. The way we are running it before, it was like me and me alone. So we are here to clean up. I think that's the language the chair is using. And there's no more me driving to one mine and say, well, I can do this because I'm minister, I'm vice president, and all that. That is long gone. And this is why they call themselves, or we call ourselves, New Dawn. And I think management also, I think we just get a compliment not long ago that you are doing your best. And those are sleeping, well, we'll wake them up. And if we are also sleeping, the door is open or the window. So I think things have changed, and they have changed for good. The expectation by both the Zambian people, first and foremost, and secondly by the shareholders, is pretty high. And we have wasted a lot of time. The turnaround strategy, I think the Minister of Finance keeps on reminding us of saying Congo was behind us. Now they are more than us. And we have given a target that we don't sleep. Soon we shall develop migraine headaches. By the end of the day, we would have done which is good for the country. So there should be no fear from the shareholders. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director Bishop Mambo. The next question we have is from one of our friend shareholders, Montpellier. I hope I'm pronouncing correctly. And he's saying that I would like to interpret his question to say that the planned migration on the Paris market, the procedure that was started, would it be achieved in the first half of 2022? Okay, so I'm being told here, the question actually is as posted, that it was planned a continuous quotation on the Paris market. What is the procedure? If so, do you think this will be achieved in the first half of 2022? Maybe the company secretary, if you may address that.
I think company secretary, and it would also be helpful if I can put him on the spot, if Director Tusak can also give us his views on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I will go first, and then Director Tusak will supplement. So the plan is that the upgrade should happen by the end of the year. Right now, we've engaged a consultant who's working with us ourselves, as well as Euronext. They are undertaking a due diligence on the ZCCM that is required. We expect this process to be finished within this quarter. And then they need to come back to us in terms of the detailed processes that are required. But in terms of the contracts and the discussions that we've had with them, they've indicated that by the end of the year, the upgrade should be completed. Director Tusak, you want to add?
Thank you very much, Company Secretary. I'm nothing much to add. Just to say that the process is ongoing. After the first process, which was to find out the supplier, this process is done. And from March 2022 now, the real work is starting on. There are many steps which are quite difficult. We are working with a French supplier. We are working with Euronext, and we are working also with SGSS, Société Générale, which is our paying agent, and we are doing some progress every time. We still needed also to finalize that process, annual report that we have been talking about before, and we are expecting it to be done before end of year, like company secretary said. That's my submission. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director Philippe Tussac, for that response. The other question, it's a comment by one of our shareholders, Gauthier, I believe, and they're saying, after many years with delay on financial statements, I'm sure the chair has touched on it, but mentioning that he's waiting for the last one and hope that in the future, those will be published on time as chair has promised. It's a comment, unless chair, you would like to belabor or reiterate your response to that?
No, I think it's very clear. Just yes, this is going to be something of the past. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. Unless there are any more questions from our participants, the shareholders, that was the last comment. If there are any other questions from our shareholders who would like to ask any concern, this is your time before we meet in the next meeting, which is the AGM in maybe a month or two. So please feel free to post the questions. And if you'd like to come online, we will be able to give you that opportunity to ask your question live on the platform. I see none. At this point, I'll therefore would like to say thank you. But before we close, I'll invite the board chairperson to give her closing remarks for today's event. Ms. Banda.
Thank you very much, Ms. Mbata. First of all, I would really like to express my gratitude to those of you who have attended this meeting and for your patience. I know there are questions that we have not fully answered to you, but please be very, very assured that we are taking your feedback back. Where we can give information because it's publicly available, we will give that information. We will relook at the answers and will strengthen the answers that we have given based on the conversation that we have had today. I want to replay what I have said, what the other two directors who have intervened have said, which is that this board is committed to truly enhancing shareholder and stakeholder engagement. And this is one, the last one I think was 6 years ago. So we are hoping that, not hoping, we will be doing more of these. In the interim, we will be having, I'm happy to have monthly conversations, not monthly, but infrequent engagement. So even outside of this formal setting, it is important that we do that. This relationship is about trust. And I think we need to build that trust and strengthen that trust. Secondly, we are creating and driving shareholder value, and return on investment is something that I wake up in the morning thinking about and something that I go to bed thinking about at night. Believe me, being at ZCCM as chair is like being at ZCCM as CEO, and CEO will attest to that. I'm in his hair every day. The board members have been available in the last 4 months. I think we have had the better part of 10 meetings. Not all board meetings, some very informal, but you call them in the morning, can we meet this afternoon? They are available and available in person. Even with COVID, we have reinstated in-person meetings so that we can be engaged. So the board is very, very engaged in this, in making sure that we are able to tell you a different story the next time we meet in a meeting like this, a more uplifting story, if I can put it that way. Having said that, I think we should be feeling encouraged. We should be feeling encouraged for the reasons that I have said, and you know, little things should be indicative to you that we are trying to shift this in the right direction. I would also remind that this management team had no board for the better part of last year. So there were quite a lot of decisions, including discussions with our friends as regards some of the underlying mining assets that just came to a halt because there was no activity. We have restarted those conversations, rebooted, and we're going at it with all the energy that we have. There are challenges. I won't close this meeting without saying that there are challenges. There are challenges, and that's what we've ended up sitting here mostly talking about. Those challenges include how do we ensure liquidity of the ZCCM stock? How do we make sure that people who invest in ZCCM have an option to realize, to exit, to scale down their investments if they want? That is one of the things that we have to grapple with and deal with. The second is the portfolio itself. We spent the better part of today's conversation trying to delve into the portfolio and the underlying problems of some of our biggest assets. Assets big for us, but also big for the sake of this country and its economic future going forward. We have one thing we didn't mention, and I should mention here, is that we have employed about 2 months ago a consultant to help us look at the internal culture at the company, how we are working together, what do we need to do in order to be able to realize optimally the 2026 strategy that we were working through at the moment. We are mending relationships with our partners. Again, trust was broken over, I think, the last 18 months, 2 years or so, between ourselves and the names that are in the newspapers all the time, Mopani, KCM, FQM, all of those. We are working aggressively to mend those relationships, however they need to be mended, whatever the outcome is going to be. But the idea is that ZCCM must be perceived to be working in mining and mining related issues and not to be in the courts all the time. Every day we spend in court is time lost. Every day we spend in court is money that we shouldn't be spending. So these are some of the challenges we have. These are some of the things we're doing. We are working also very closely with IDC as our shareholder. They are actually helping us in some cases with actual manpower to achieve certain things that we need to achieve, to give us a second eye on certain things that we need. We have just signed this year's, we signed it a few months ago, this year's performance management contract with IDC, which has both qualitative and quantitative metrics that we have to meet. And I just want to close this meeting by thanking you once more, thanking my fellow board members, thanking the management of ZCCM, and thanking our stakeholders, who are many, for the support, for the patience, for the forbearance that you are giving us, but we will try our very, very best not to disappoint. This is of personal interest. This is national duty, international duty for most of us at the board and in management. So I would like to close on that high note that whilst we have the challenges that we have, we are definitely looking at an upward trajectory, and we are very overwhelmed but excited about where we could take this company. So thank you for that.
Thank you very much, Ms. Banda, ZCCM Board Chairperson, and for those closing remarks. And I'd like to take this opportunity again to say thank you to our board directors who are present here, Director Bishop John Mambo and Director Muchindu Kasongola from the IDC, and Director Gregory Kabwe from the Ministry of Finance, and Director Philippa Tusak, and also Director Moses Inyerinda from the Ministry of Mines and Minerals Development. Special thanks also goes to the Acting Chief Executive Officer, ZCCMH, and the rest of ZCCMH management, and everyone who was on the virtual platform and stayed in for the past 2 hours who are with us. We greatly appreciate the interest and your participation and commitment across the time that we've spent with you. As I mentioned earlier, a copy of today's presentation and the recording, including the questions, there's a list of questions that were sent and might have not been read out during this session, will be posted on the website. And some of these questions relate to the production of production numbers in terms of from Mopani copper mines and various issues. And all those will be posted on the website, will be made available and accessible. Thank you very much again, and we look forward to speaking to you again. Thank you. And the meeting has been called to a close.